Welcome everyone to Reclaiming Yourself Sundays. How y'all doing this morning? You feeling good? This is a beautiful day to have a beautiful day, and I'm excited to be with you today. For those of you new joining, my name is Diana Patton. I am your authentic power strategist. So everything that I talk to you about really truly comes from my heart. It's something that I know a lot of us don't rely upon often. Rely upon our intellect, but we don't rely upon our heart and really lose out on the opportunity to be our most authentic self doing our greatest work. Today, we are getting into a new series called Reclaiming Yourself. If you've been following along, you've been noticing we've been talking about not feeling like myself. And this is a topic that I know a lot of corporate women in general, when we get to hit about 40, 45, we start saying things like, I just don't feel like myself. Something is off. I'm not sure what's going on. Why am I feeling this way? And we go to our doctors, we talk to our family, and we express this. And often, if you're like me, a pretty high caliber, high achieving, very ambitious, really hardly ever get sick. And if I do, when I'm down, right? Person, and people like, you're okay. Nothing's wrong with you. Oh, you look fine. Oh, nothing's wrong. And no one really believes you until you keep repeating the same thing over and over and over again, saying, I just don't feel like myself. So today, or actually over the last, I don't know, 3 months, we've been talking about this not feeling like myself. This is an actually research topic. And so I want you to know you're not alone. And then also, you're in the right place. If you are a woman, a corporate woman, executive woman, ambitious, high achieving woman, and you're looking for resources and tools to help you learn how to get through this phase in a way that allows you to understand neurologically that your brain is trying to rewire itself. Your brain is trying to recalibrate, and you're not crazy. It's not in your head. It is your brain. So, we are going to revisit a book that I have talked about frequently called The Menopause Brain. The Menopause Brain by Dr. Lisa Mosconi. This is the book that literally changed my life. There have been about 10 books in my life, I can honestly say, that have literally taken my mind and my understanding of life to a whole new level. And she's now in that top 10 simply because I have moved into this new stage of life that has been very, uh, I would say, traumatic. And I say traumatic because in 2020, for those of you who know my story, in 2020, I literally felt like I couldn't get out of bed. I had uncontrollable shaking. My throat felt like it was restricted, so I had a hard time swallowing. I really felt like I wanted to jump out of my skin. And I was really just not sure of myself, unable to make clear decisions, all the things we talk about when it comes to perimenopause and menopause symptoms. Yet when I went to the doctor, I kept saying, isn't this menopause? And even my gynecologist would say, oh, everybody wants to blame their depression and anxiety on menopause. No, Diana, you have to just agree to the fact that you're depressed or you're anxious because it's 2020. You come from a lot of trauma. You work in diversity, equity, inclusion. This is a big thing. And of course, I believed her. She's my physician. She's the person that I go to for advice. But yet, no one really believed that it could be menopause. And I never understood it until I read this book. So I want you to understand something that I have been talking about and talking about and talking about. And that is, I believe that menopause is your great invitation. It's the invitation to choose a different way of living. And I just really believe that I will go to my grave understanding that this is, I would call, the new way of living. It's allowing you to see a new way. And I want to get into the science. I want to talk to you a little bit about what Dr. Lisa Mosconi says. So I want to give you a little bit of science, but I want to give you some real life understanding. And I want to give you some tips that you can begin to implement today on how you can reclaim yourself and do everything that we were talking about in our graphic today. So today's graphic basically says that is it my brain? And I want you to reclaim your mind. And so I want to read to you a little bit of what we described on LinkedIn. For those of you who are not with me on LinkedIn, I would really encourage you to follow me on LinkedIn and subscribe to our Authentic Power Strategies. And I want to give you the description, and I'm going to read it to you because I want to deliver to you exactly what we said we were going to deliver. And so essentially, what we said was, if I can, if you've been questioning your intelligence, right, your confidence, your competence lately, stop. Your brain isn't failing you. It has less estrogen available right now, and it's rewiring in real time. It's not a decline, it's a neurological renovation. So, what we know is that a clear mind creates great leadership. So, let's get into the science. I had no idea how much estrogen was responsible for the synapses happening in your brain. Neurologically, there are neural pathways that are happening all the time, which create and generate thought. And this thought basically allows you to fire off something that's already in your brain. And what happens with a lot of us women is when we are low in estrogen, then all of a sudden we want to think about something that seems logical, like a fork, or even a person's name, or say, for instance, an item. For me, I was looking at this onion that I was going, what kind of onion is this? And even right now, I'm sitting there like, oh, it's a shallot. Like, what's a shallot? Like, not coming to me. What is this? I'm looking at it literally at the getting ready to um, type in the name of it. I literally could not remember the name of it. That is where your brain used to rely upon estrogen to create neurological functioning. And what it's doing is it's simply trying to rewire. So, when you feel like this is happening, your pituitary gland, which typically releases progesterone, and your hippocampus is all kind of out of whack. And your brain is really going through this shift. It's starting to realize that I can't rely upon these estrogen receptors to allow my brain to refunction. I'm going to have to find a new way to operate. Now, let's just get this out here right now. There is absolutely nothing wrong with supplementing with estrogen. There's nothing wrong with it. In fact, I highly suggest that if your doctor says that you can do hormone replacement therapy and it's good. I mean, there have been tons of studies that were, really kind of bad mouthing HRT, but that's not the case anymore. There are so many great positives with hormone replacement therapy. So, and I'm going to give you some tips that are going to help you now. Like, you don't have to go to the doctor to get them. And trust me, you're going to want to do these things. But for now, I want to share that with you because, some of you are really struggling with brain fog and with uh, these deep symptoms like hot flashes that are really debilitating. You're having a hard time sleeping. It's waking you up like 2, 3, 10, 12, 20 times at night, often with wet sheets. I get that. I understand that. And so I want to share that with you. But what you have to know neurologically from the science is that your brain literally, and it can rewire itself. So Lisa Mosconi says that as a result of all the things happening in your brain, let me just put it this way, cognitively, you are just as relevant and clear as the person sitting next to you. It doesn't mean that you're losing your ability to have the intellect to do it. It's just at a slower pace because, again, your brain is trying to rewire. And so, the number one thing that I really believe people need to understand is you are not going to continue at that pace as long as you start doing some of the things I'm going to be suggesting here. And it is not going to slow you down completely, but it will require you to go at a different gear, at a different pace, because you are not necessarily 20 anymore, but you still have just as much within you and more within you than when you were in your 20s. So I hope that gives you some peace and some hope, because it's not it's just a shift. It's no different than when we started having periods. It's no different than when we had children. Like, things had to shift. You had to go through this, like, this change, and then you're going to get into a new way. Are you picking up what I'm laying down? So say this with me. Menopause is my great invitation. Menopause, I'm grateful for you being in my life, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to learn and grow. When you keep that mindset and you have that at the foundation, even when it's challenging. I mean, let me tell you something. People who go through debilitating diseases like cancer, um, muscular dystrophy, you name any type of debilitating disease or neurological problems, when you have at the foundation gratitude, even when it's like you're crazy to think, how can I be grateful for this moment? Be grateful for it. There is a deep understanding of renewal that happens when your body is at the foundation of gratitude and love. That is a beautiful neurochemistry that happens, hormones release that allow that process of renewal, regeneration to happen. Trust me on this. So, I want to share with you what I saw in my life. I started to recognize, number one, I made a decision. I did not want to live in that dissonance, cognitive dissonance. Basically, dissonance is like a storm. It's like this, um, being in a storm. There's constantly like a lightning is going to happen, and then all of a sudden everything seems in disarray. And I said, I don't want to live in dissonance. I want to live with a sense of peace. I want to live with a sense of ease. And so what I began to do is I began to study. I began to learn. I began to dive into the research. I started seeking out doctors and podcasts and people who had already studied this. And so I really thought, man, what does the research say about this particular situation? And I did the same thing when I was pregnant. I did not do that when I had my period started. I just asked my sisters, what they do. And unfortunately, they weren't really talking about menstruation and periods a lot in sex education class. That wasn't a big topic. And quite honestly, I just think that the people were just not having it in their radar. But with everything, you have to start with what's happening with me. What are my symptoms? What do I typically feel like? What has changed? And how do I feel most days? What's my sleep like? How is my response time? What's my nervous system feeling like? Do I feel on edge? All of these kinds of things are important places to start, which is the reason why we created our executive biology audit. This is an audit that allows you to be able to go deep into understanding foundationally what is at your metabolic functioning. That's a critical first step. And that's what I began to do, which is the reason why I developed the executive biology audit, because I just realized, I'm like, wonder if anybody else is doing this. And no, not a lot of people are taking their lives very seriously and understanding that you are your own full-time job. Like, you literally are your own full-time job. And when you start recognizing, and I tell people to raise the right hand, say, I am my own full-time job. When you start recognizing that, you start realizing things begin to change. Because I believe in the Rumi quote. Rumi is a philosopher, Rumi. His quote is, what you seek is seeking you. So, as you are beginning to seek out this information, it will find you, especially when you do it on social media, because there are algorithms out there that will start to feed you what it is that you begin to search for. Now it's easy. Okay. What you focus on expands. So that's the first step. In any way, you're going to change and learn that I don't have to live this way. You don't want to live with dissonance? Make a decision and say, I'm going to start diving into this information. Someone on social media recently said, I hear what you're saying, Diana. I know that all that stuff, is what you should be eating and all the things. However, I like chocolate chip cookies. Well, when you decide that you want the results that you want to have more than you want a temporary chocolate chip cookie, then we can talk because all that stuff is made up. All right. All that is made up. So let's start to get into what I call, first, everything starts with that, right? Anytime you want to change, you've got to start there. You got to start being the person who wants it so bad that you realize that I'm willing to do whatever it takes legally and morally to get me to that next place where I want to be. All right. The next thing that I believe has to happen is you have to believe it's possible. That you got to believe it's possible. Because there's one thing saying, I'm going to do it, right? And the second thing is to actually believe it's possible. Because what comes out of your mouth and what comes out of your mind is a direct reflection of your hormonal balance. Because I believe, see, the thing is I know, and this is in the research, that menopause brain, the issues that impact women, the severity of the issues or the severity of the symptoms don't affect everyone the same way. Now, I know that Dr. Mosconi says that there are variables that aren't 100% clear. I'm just saying that they're not 100% clear, but it's leaning toward the fact that some of us have a load of trauma, experiences that have happened in our lives, that when these symptoms come to the forefront, they impact us differently. And this could be what my gynecologist was saying when she was trying to recommend these depression and antidepressant and anti-anxiety medications. But she was doing that without diagnosing the fact that perhaps maybe I do have a load of trauma that is at a higher degree than others, which is why menopause and its impact affects me differently. Now, do you feel you following that? So say for instance, you were a person who's gone through a lot of trauma, it's unprocessed, you've never dealt with it before, and all of a sudden your brain is starting to gravitate towards certain kinds of things. You might feel like your life is falling apart more than someone else's life might be falling apart, right? Because of that background trauma. That is something to definitely be aware of. But until you start to do the research on yourself, which is the reason why in our executive biology audit, I talk a lot about nervous system regulation. Like, how is your nervous system? How does it respond? How quickly do you return to calm? Those are indicators of your trauma load, that you might be dealing with a lot more load than someone else. So, but the key is for those of us who are swirling in a higher degree, is that believing that it's possible. Like, I believe that you have to have a faith. You have to have this deep understanding that it's possible for me. Now, this is where we move away from science and we start moving into the metaphysical, the spiritual aspects of everything. That faith is the evidence of things unseen. So you don't really see it in your physical world, but you know mentally that the evidence is going to come to you. It's going to come to you. So you just have this firm, deep belief that everything's going to work out. It's not dismissing the symptoms. It's not acting like it's not there. It's saying, yep, I see you there, but I just believe there's another way. You picking up what I'm laying down? I'm going to take a sip of this. It's so good. That's just black coffee. That's what I love to drink. And my water, of course. So I really believe that belief is that. And so for me, because I come from a spiritual lens all the time, I believe that science always complements a spiritual text. And the spiritual text I just talked about was faith. But I want to tell you about another thing that I believe is relevant when it comes to belief. And that belief, that relevancy toward belief, relies upon what I call the scripture: do not follow the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. That is an actual scripture. It's found in Romans. It's a scripture I talk about all the time in the Bible. And I'm sure that in other religious texts, you can find something similar. That when you start to, and this religious text was written so long ago, but it's more relevant now than ever. Because when you start to follow the patterns of this world, you're constantly listening to the news, you're constantly on social media, you are scrolling, doom scrolling, your brain won't be able to do all the things that we're talking about, and it will not renew because you are putting such a deep load on your brain. It cannot do that, and it has the functioning to be able to do that, but there's too much of it coming in. We are overloaded with information, and our brain can't process at the rate by which you are putting all that in there. So it's really critical that in order for you to believe that you can have a new way and renew your mind, you've got to remove some of the patterns that you've been doing all along, because the patterns that you've been used to won't allow a new pattern to form in your brain. But that's all goes back to that belief, right? Because you can't believe in something that you can't see until you see the patterns. You see me? You feel me? I know this is deep, but that's the reason why I'm trying to take a moment, because a lot of y'all just trying to take a pill, right? To remove a lot of this stuff. And that's not how it always works. That's not how it always works. Okay. So that's the second thing. I mean, the first thing is just really getting into this understanding that I'm making the decision. The second thing is that you have to believe it. And the third thing that I believe is so, so critical is you got to take one step at a time and begin to chip away at breathing. Breathing. See, the thing is a lot of us don't realize that when our brains are searching for that thought, it's just like re-scrambling, and it's like, how am I doing this? Because it's going to affect your leadership. It's just like people, I just don't get why do you not think that this isn't a leadership topic that we need to be talking about? It is. It's a leadership topic, and you have to understand it. And that gets me to the breathing. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to be able to slow your brain down. And the best way to slow your brain down is to take a deep breath. And so I'm going to show you what I believe is the trigger to get you back. And it helps you come to calm. It helps you to remind yourself. I believe in pausing. Selah, S-E-L-A-H. Selah means to pause, right? Is to just kind of slow it down. So Selah, all right? And I want you to take a deep breath in through your nose. And when you take that deep breath in, you breathe it all the way in. I want you to take another deep breath. And then what I want you to do is I want to blow it all out through your nose. I'm going to give you an example of what that looks like. All right. I'm not going to talk. You're just going to follow me, and that's the best thing, because it just stops you from talking. Right. And you can, let's just use this as an example. All right. Okay. I can't remember that onion. All right. Let me just. That is amazing. And that allows your brain to get the oxygen and the blood to your brain to help it rewire itself, right? So it's critical that you start to incorporate that breathing. Now, I'm not saying that you only do it when you are suffering with a brain fog. That's the best. Yes, absolutely. I'm saying that you should begin to incorporate this practice into your daily life. This is what I believe is critical for us to do, is to incorporate a daily practice of breathing, which is the reason why when you're doing this and you're moving and you're breathing, your life begins to change and you begin to reclaim your brain and reclaim your mind and reclaim your leadership. I really know that breathing through your nose, Diana, it's much more it's going to slow you down a lot more. Like when I'm running, like for example, if I'm running or I'm at high activity, I have to slow, my heart cannot beat at a rate that is over my exertion when I am breathing through my nose. So like I literally have to slow my pace down to be able to breathe through my nose. And that is a conditioning that I have known that has helped my heart function at such a great rate. And your heart functioning, the way your heart beats, and this is the other thing too, ladies, is that your heartbeat, your heart rate, need that heart rate variability. Oh, there's just so much to talk about here. But when you're breathing and you're learning how to use that cardiovascular functioning and you apply that to your brain renewal process, it's just this beautiful sweet spot that all of us need to be in because we can function much better cardiovascularly, leadership wise, and more in control. We have a deeper executive presence when we are able to control our breath. Does this make sense? I hope so. So, breathing is a huge function. Breathing in meditation, breathing in your prayer time, and repeating these affirmations is key. Breathing deeply like that in your physical activity, which I want to get you to this physical activity and movement, because movement, concentrated movement, and I'm going to say specifically walking. Ladies, when we begin to incorporate a practice of movement and we are breathing, like I'm telling you, and breathing like that, we start to rewire things. And you are literally starting to repeat to yourself what it is that you want in your life, even if you have to go through a hot flash and do it, right? But you will notice those hot flashes will diminish. You will notice that that brain fog will go away by just incorporating these steps. And when are you going to move? I'm going to highly suggest that you get at least 8,000 to 10,000 steps a day. Right? When are you going to do that? Well, hopefully, a lot of you are taking breaks during your day. You're not just sitting in a chair from the time that you get to your corporate position until you leave, like 8 hours in your chair. Like, no, please, no. Like, you literally going to have to get up after you get done eating your meal. And then I'm going to suggest that you go for a 10 to 12-minute walk. And I want you to breathe while you do that. Right. And for those of you who are trying to like increase your activity, I would say that at some point during that day, that you're going to take like a 20-minute block and you're going to break it up into 5-minute increments. And within that 5-minute increment, you're going to walk fast at a brisk pace. Well, you're going to just walk regular. Let me break this down. So we're at a 5-minute. There's five. How many 5-minute intervals are in 20 minutes? 4, because 5 times 4 is 20, right? So 5 minutes times 4 intervals. Okay. So let's take that one interval. You're going to multiply this and do it 4 times. The first minute, you're just going to walk at a pace that's comfortable to you. The second minute, I would say walk at that same pace. Third minute, I would say pick it up a little bit. Get a brisker walk. The fourth minute, same, pick it up. The fifth minute, I would say go all out, right? And then come back down, right? Breathing through your nose, in and out, right? And then do that 4 times. That's so good for you cardiovascularly. And if you struggle with knee problems or whatever, just walk quickly, walk briskly, right? And then figure out from there what is a good, and then push yourself the next time. That's just a great opportunity to get blood into your brain. And it allows you to feel good. I used to do that when I was working my corporate job, right? We actually had a gym. And so, I would literally eat my lunch, right? I would go to, I would go eat my lunch for like 15 minutes because we had an hour. Obviously, most places give you an hour for lunch. I would do the eating, and then, or this is what I would do. I would actually do that 20-minute interval first, and then I would go eat my lunch. Then sometimes I would do the eat my lunch, and then I would go do the 20-minute interval. I just had the ability to be able to do that. And somebody say, well, I got to digest my food. That's the best way to digest your food. Put that food to work. Put that food to work. Okay, so those are some of the things that I would do to reclaim your mind. And the last final suggestion that I would really highly, highly recommend, right, is for you to be able to do strength training. The strength training is going to help you develop the neurotransmitters in your muscles that are going to allow your brain to function better. The hormonal responses that are going to happen, your muscles actually fuel themselves off of a number of different types of biomarkers like glycogen. And glycogen is sugar, right? Sugar equates to energy. But if that energy is not used, it turns to fat. And the more that we have leaner muscle mass, and as we age, that lean muscle mass goes away. So, what you're going to want to do is increase more muscle mass, right? And some of you may think, well, I don't want to get bulky. Well, we do have to address the eating part of that, right? I'm going to have to say that. I'm going to have to give you that criteria before we leave this video. But the muscle, and I'm going to say this is where you're going to need to have a coach. You're going to need to have someone that's going to help you walk this process, unless you already are knowledgeable about weight training. Because if you're not knowledgeable about weight training, I just see so many people getting injured at this phase of life, right? So you really need to have a good coach, a good instructor on strength training. And I would say you need to strength train at least 3 to 4 times a week with heavy weights in intervals. Okay. So we need to dive into that. And this is not the time for that video. But I do want to end with the most beautiful things that you can do for your brain and for your joints and for your body at this stage of life is to begin to implement. And I know you've heard this before, but I'm just know it's critical, is for you to implement foods that are going to be good for your digestion. And the number one thing I would say is eating a food that's high in DHA, right? And that's salmon, eating salmon and eating chia seeds, eating these things that have these good quality fats in them is really important. Taking fish oil, taking krill oil, all of those things matter, right? And really making certain you have those omega-3s in your diet. It's just critical, especially for your brain. Your brain needs that fat. Your brain is primarily made up of fat, but good quality fat, right? That's what I want to leave you with. These are the things I know work. This is exactly what Dr. Lisa Mosconi talks about. Now, you leave here like, what's my number one step, Diana? Buy the book. Give Dr. Lisa Mosconi some love. Buy the book, right? Buy the book. Start doing your research. Start working on a new belief system. What do you believe is possible? Start identifying some of your symptoms. What's going on? Right? That's the first place to start. And I would also say do the executive biology audit. For those of you who are like ready, you're serious, do the executive biology audit. And I'm going to actually put it in here so that you can have it. And I'm going to put it in the notes. And it takes a few minutes to do. Here's the executive biology audit. If I can spell it the right way. Executive biology audit. Okay, very good. All right, here's that. And I'm going to actually put that in the notes. So that's the executive biology audit. What are you going to do when you do the audit? You're going to learn about your metabolic functioning. You're going to learn about your nervous system, how fast you return to calm. You're going to learn about your identity, because some of you are operating in an old identity that does not serve you well. And some of you have what I call a nasty. Someone's like, what's that word nasty? Well, I just love Janet Jackson when she talks about nasty, because some of us have this way about us that doesn't allow our executive presence to shine. And you have an executive presence. It's beautiful. So I want you to understand that the nasty part of it is, don't react to every single situation. I want you to learn how to respond in a way that serves you. And then you're in control. That's what the executive biology audit is going to give you. So I would suggest that you do that audit, see how that works for you, and just get into our ecosystem. Start following this channel. We are live every Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for Reclaiming Sundays. We're going to be talking about not feeling like myself Sundays, and we're going to be keep continuing to talk about very serious. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. If you are on LinkedIn, subscribe to the Authentic Power Strategies. We give you these newsletters every single week. We are very consistent in the way we deliver this information. If you're on Instagram, follow my journey on my road to the pros. You're going to learn about what it's like being 58 years of age and applying a lot of these principles as I'm doing my bodybuilding prep. For those of you who don't know, I am a bodybuilder, a natural bodybuilder, and I'm working on getting my pro card. So I'm excited about this. I'm excited to journey with you. Thank you so much for tuning in, listening to this recording. I will be summarizing this recording and putting it into YouTube Shorts and into short videos for you to be able to enjoy on your own. But please highly suggest this video to some of your friends. Pick up the book, The Menopause Brain. Give Dr. Lisa Mosconi some love. All right, until next time. Bye.